Hello, all performers. Hope you're having a great day. And last week I put out a post on being an authority. And wherever you're watching or listening to this, I'll put a link for it so you can go ahead and link to it. But it was based on the premise of it came from a sales training that I did, where many of us will discount the hundreds and the thousands of hours that we put into something and how that really truly does make us an authority or an expert in a given area. And it's not that you have to puff out your chest, you have to tell everyone that you're an authority, but it should actually give you that quiet confidence in what it is that you're doing. And one of the things that I talked about is the confidence-competence loop, where if you have done something for a very long period of time and you've put in a lot of hours, that proves that you are competent in a given area or in a given field or with a given skill. And that should in turn fuel your confidence towards what it is that you're doing on a day to day basis. But then the other part of it is okay, Scott, well, what the heck do I do if I don't have hundreds or thousands of hours in something? How do I acquire that initial confidence to just get started and to just kind of get the ball rolling and get it going in the right direction? And there are some distinctions between what the norm does and what outperformers do that allow them to take those initial first steps to have that confidence that if I do the work, and there's no substitute for putting in the reps, but if I put in those reps and continue to put in the hundreds and the thousands of hours, it's going to pay off for me in the long run. So let's talk about the psychology underneath that. And one of the first things that you need to do, I'm going to go through three things, but the first thing is you got to prioritize the process. And if you look at the psychology underneath, like why we don't even get started on something, there isn't a single person on planet Earth, me included, that likes being bad at something, right? Or that maybe to even say better, that likes not being good at something. Like we all want to feel like we are good or we are competent. And what doesn't even allow the norm or kind of, people that just maybe overthink it or don't get started and don't put themselves out there is the thought that I don't want to be bad at this. And if you're saying, I don't want to be bad at this, what you are always doing is you are looking at the end result or you are looking at the outcome of something. So, like, let's just take what I'm doing right now. I've probably recorded hundreds, if not thousands, of videos in my life. And I cannot possibly begin to tell you the number of times on my early videos that I would just bumble and blunder all over myself. And it would take me 20 takes to be able to record a video. And if I was initially going into that when I first started, prioritizing that outcome or the end result, saying, well, it's not even worth it for me to do it unless I can wake up and I can record these videos in one take because I don't want to be bad at this. And all I'm looking at is I'm just looking at what is the outcome, what is the end result from what I'm doing, rather than looking at it and saying, okay, maybe it takes me 20 takes at the beginning. But if I prioritize the process and if I prioritize just getting a little bit better each time, at some point it will only take me 15 takes, it'll only take me 10 takes, and then 5 takes. And now I can basically wake up and I can record videos in one take, uh, kind of at the drop of a hat. And that's how we actually acquire that competence in any area of our life. But if all we are looking at from the initial part of starting something is, I'm not going to be very good, or all you're doing is looking at that end result or that outcome, you are never going to get started because of the gap simply from where you are starting and where that outcome or where that level of proficiency happens to be. Whether you're making brand new in sales, you're making outbound cold calls, or whether you're new in a leadership position, you're leading a new team, or you're building a business, writing a book, starting a new sport, acquiring a hobby, or recording videos. Like it really doesn't matter. There is always going to be a gap between where you are now and where that level of proficiency lies in terms of the end result or the end outcome. So instead of going into something from the initial get go and just looking at this, look at that process and look at the incremental improvement that you're making. Because if you do that, you're going to be more willing to put in those reps that there's no substitute for. And you're going to be more willing to stick with it and to continue to do it. And as you acquire that competence, that then will loop back and will fuel the confidence that we all need. So that's really the first and foremost thing. And then two other quick things that we all need to do. One, use your reference points. I don't know if this is you looking 2 years back or 10 years back, but look back at some area of your life, personally, professionally, athletically, where you're now very proficient or skilled or good at something, but at some point you probably weren't, right? You probably had to start at the kind of square one where maybe you were bad or you weren't very good at something, but you continued to put in the reps and now you're very skilled or very proficient at it. And what we do when we use reference points, and it doesn't have to be in the same area. You can take something personally, use it professionally. You can take something athletically and use it for your personal life. But it's just basically looking at something and saying, if I've done it before, I can do it again. That's how outperformers think. And they think if I'm willing to put in that same level of work, well, it paid off for me in this one area. So it just makes sense from a confidence and a belief standpoint that if I do it, it will pay off in this other area as well. So use those reference points. And then the other part is to also use your vicarious experiences, as we call it in sports psychology. But vicarious experiences is looking out at other people that may be highly skilled or proficient in whatever you are looking to do, whatever skill, whatever you're looking to acquire, and saying, if they can do it, I can do it too. Now, a lot of us won't do that because we'll look at it, and it kind of comes back to the fixed mindset versus growth mindset part of it, where we'll look out at other people, somebody that is leading a company, somebody that's built a great business, somebody that's a sales leader, somebody that is incredibly fluent and good on video and has written best-selling books. Like, we will look out at these other people and we will look at it with a fixed mindset and say, well, they were just born with some level of communication or some level of charisma or some ability to write or ability to speak that I just don't have. And that's how the norm thinks. How outperformers actually look at it is they say, well, from a growth mindset standpoint, let's just compare me to Tony Robbins, okay? If I've recorded hundreds or maybe thousands of videos, Tony Robbins has probably recorded tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of videos or spoken to live audiences, just to compare me against someone else. And I could very easily go and I could look at Tony and I could say, well, Tony was just born with something that I don't have. Or I could say, well, I didn't know Tony when he was back at square one. And maybe he's so good at what he does right now because he's put in the tens of thousands and the of thousands of hours of work. And because he's put in all of those reps and he has all of that competence, well, that's part of the reason that he's actually so good at it. And I should be able to look at that and I should be able to say, he doesn't actually have anything that I don't have. And if I put in the work, if he can do it, I can do it too. And we need to do this in our lives. And when we do this, it's not that we're putting someone else down, we're pulling ourselves up. But I would highly encourage you that chances are, whatever you're looking at doing, whether some of the examples I gave, writing a book, building a business, starting a new sales job, leading a team, etc., somebody else has done it too. And somebody else has done it on a very high level. And chances are the person that has done it is no smarter than you, is no more experienced than you, is no more educated than you, is really no different than you are at all. And if they can do it, you can do it too. So from an initial starting point, if you are looking to put in the reps to get started, to get the ball rolling so you can acquire that competence that you need via this confidence-competence loop, in looking at that, prioritize the process over the end result or the outcome. Use your reference points. If you've done it before, you can do it again. And also use the vicarious experiences where if someone else can do it, you can do it too. All of these things might sound really painfully simple, But trust me, this is the psychology of how people outperform. And if you only use those three things, you're not only going to get started with more things in your personal, professional, athletic life, but you're also going to have a much better chance of sticking with it long term and really acquiring that competence and that proficiency and whatever it is that you're looking to do. So, thanks for watching, listening. Have a great day. And as always, wishing you the best of health, happiness, and high performance.